Welcome to our deep dive all about the secret life of trees. We're going to be using excerpts from Colin Tudge's book, The Secret Life of Trees. And I think you're going to find this is a lot more exciting than your average botany lesson. We're not just talking about, identifying leaves and bark and stuff. We're going way beyond that. We're going to be uncovering the hidden world of these silent giants, from their ancient origins to their surprisingly complex relationships with other organisms.
Absolutely. Tudge's book really is a treasure trove of insights. I'm excited to dive into some of the most fascinating parts with you.
Perfect. Let's get to it. I think we often take trees for granted.
Yeah.
We just see them as part of the scenery. But Tudge really emphasizes that there's so much more than just, pretty backdrops. He calls them fundamental to human survival. And I don't think he's exaggerating.
No, not at all. Tudge points out that, beyond the obvious things like oxygen and timber, they provide us with food and medicine, and they even play a crucial role in regulating global climate and the entire water cycle.
It really is. And Tudge gets into the science, too. He reveals how, we're still learning so much about how trees function, communicate, and even evolve.
Yeah.
Speaking of evolution, why don't we kind of trace the journey of these leafy behemoths? From their earliest beginnings.
Yeah. So that's a journey of billions of years.
Right.
From single-celled organisms to the complex giants we see today. Tudge highlights some pretty remarkable innovations along the way. And I think one of the biggest game changers was the evolution of wood.
Wood, huh? Seems pretty basic, but I bet there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Oh, definitely. Tudge points out that wood is just this incredibly strong and versatile material, and it allowed trees to, reach new heights, literally, and it allowed them to just dominate terrestrial ecosystems and really played a huge role in shaping the planet as we know it.
Okay, so wood is a big deal.
Yeah.
But where did these woody wonders even come from?
Well, Tudge takes us all the way back to those ancient conifers, like the bristlecone pines. Some of them have been alive for thousands of years, just clinging to life in incredibly harsh environments. And their longevity and resilience are just testaments to the power of adaptation, really.
Yeah. Talk about survivors, right? But Tudge doesn't stop with conifers, does he? He also explores the rise of flowering plants, or angiosperms. And of course, those dominate the world today.
Exactly. And that's another pivotal chapter in tree evolution. Angiosperms develop flowers and seeds, and that really, opened up this whole new world of reproductive strategies. And it's led to just an explosion of diversity in tree forms. Think about it, from tiny herbs to towering trees, all thanks to those clever flowers.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. We've got these ancient conifers and the rise of the angiosperms. But let's go back to the conifers for a minute. Are they just relics of a bygone era? Or do they still have some surprises up their, branches?
The Tudge makes it clear that while they might be less diverse than flowering plants, conifers are far from irrelevant. They've got some unique features and adaptations that are truly remarkable.
Like what? Give me an example of a conifer that's just jaw-dropping.
Take the kauri tree, for instance. Tudge describes Tane Mahuta, a giant kauri in New Zealand, revered by the Maori people. And it's just massive. The girth is so wide, it could shelter an entire village.
Wow, that's a tree you can't ignore.
Yeah.
But some conifers are known for their bizarre shapes too, right?
Absolutely. You've got the monkey puzzle tree, with its spiky, almost prehistoric form. It definitely stands out. And it's just a living testament to the incredible diversity that, evolution can produce.
So conifers may not have flashy flowers, but they definitely know how to make a statement. But what about their ability to, survive in these harsh environments?
Tudge points out that conifers thrive in some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. From the coastal redwoods basking in those wet environments to the junipers surviving in deserts. And even near the Greenland ice cap. They've clearly mastered the art of adaptation.
Okay, conifers. Tough, ancient, and full of character. But now I'm really intrigued by those flowering plants, the reigning champions of diversity, right? What makes them so successful?
Tudge attributes their success to those sophisticated reproductive mechanisms, the evolution of flowers with their, intricate designs and often elaborate relationships with pollinators. That has allowed flowering plants to diversify into this just astounding array of forms.
So it's more than just pretty petals.
Oh, definitely. Tudge uses the example of figs and fig wasps. You see, each species of fig relies on a specific species of wasp for pollination. And so the female wasp enters the fig, she pollinates the flowers, lays her eggs inside, and then dies. And her offspring develop within the fig, and then the males help the females escape so they can go find another fig, and then continue the cycle.
That's an incredible example of coevolution. But it's also a little creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, nature can be both beautiful and a little strange sometimes. And flowering plants have got another trick up their sleeve. Palms. They have this unique evolutionary path, right? They lack the secondary thickening that allows most trees to grow wider trunks.
So they're forever stuck in their slender, youthful phase?
In a way, yes, but that hasn't stopped them from, dominating tropical and subtropical landscapes all around the world. And their unique structure is just a testament to the diverse ways that trees have evolved to thrive.
This is fascinating stuff. We've journeyed through the evolution of trees, from ancient conifers to the diverse world of flowering plants. But how did these different species end up scattered across the globe? What determines their geographic distribution?
Well, Tudge takes us on this journey through the geography of trees and reveals this tapestry that's woven by, factors like continental drift, climate change, and even species interactions. You might not think of trees as travelers, but their distribution is the story of just epic journeys and dramatic shifts, over millions of years.
Wait, continental drift? You mean like those giant land masses moving around over millions of years? How does that affect trees?
Imagine continents drifting apart, carrying their native trees with them. That's why we see such distinct tree communities in different parts of the world. And climate change also plays a role. As, trees adapt to shifting temperatures and rainfall patterns, and that leads to, the evolution of unique species in different regions.
So trees aren't just witnesses to these grand geological and climatic shifts. They're actually being shaped by them.
Precisely. And then there's the extraordinary diversity of trees in the tropics. Tudge points out that in the Duck Reserve in Amazonia, scientists have found over 1,000 tree species, and that's just in a relatively small area. It's mind-boggling.
Wow, that's incredible. What's driving that kind of hyperdiversity in the tropics? Is it just, the warm weather?
It's more than just the temperature. It's also, factors like high rainfall, stable temperatures, and these complex interactions between species. It all contributes to just the incredible richness of life in the tropics. It's a hotbed of evolution, constantly generating new forms of life.
So we have this incredible natural distribution of trees across the globe, shaped by millions of years of, geological and climatic forces. But then there's the human element too, right? What does Tudge have to say about, the impact of human activities on this intricate web of life?
Yeah, he raises an important question about how we manage these vital ecosystems. And he doesn't, shy away from the complexities. For instance, he points out that, introducing exotic species like eucalyptus trees can have both positive and negative consequences.
Positive? How so? Aren't exotic species usually a problem?
Well, sometimes those introduced species can, grow faster and provide more timber, which could potentially lessen the pressure on native forests. But of course, there's a flip side to consider.
There always is, isn't there? What are the downsides of introducing exotic trees?
Well, they can become invasive, outcompeting native species and just disrupting those delicate ecological balances. And, they may not provide the same habitat or food sources for local wildlife. And they can even alter soil chemistry in ways that harm other plants. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Right.
Utilizing resources responsibly while also protecting those native ecosystems. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, classifying trees, their evolution, distribution, and even the human impact. But let's get to the really intriguing part, this secret language that Tudge talks about. Trees communicating with each other. Is that for real?
That's what makes Tudge's book so fascinating. He reveals that, trees do communicate, and they do it through these chemical signals. Think of it as like a silent alarm system.
Yeah.
When a tree is attacked by, pests or herbivores, it can release these volatile organic compounds into the air, and that warns its neighbors to, ramp up their defenses.
So if one tree gets nibbled on, it can basically send out a signal to all its buddies to prepare for battle. It's incredible.
Exactly. It's remarkable adaptation for survival. And Tudge also discusses the role of parasites, like the fungus responsible for Dutch elm disease. It's a stark reminder of the complex and often, delicate interplay between trees and their environment.
Yeah, Dutch elm disease was devastating. Wiped out so many elm trees. It's a stark reminder of how vulnerable trees can be, even with their secret communication systems. So what other defenses do they have up their, trunks? How do they protect themselves from all the things that want to, eat them or take advantage of them?
Trees have a surprising arsenal of defenses. From the obvious to the downright cunning. Some trees produce, chemicals that are toxic or distasteful to herbivores, while others have, physical defenses like thorns, spines, or thick bark.
Right, those are the obvious ones.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling there are some more subtle strategies at play, too.
Absolutely. Tudge describes the mopane tree. It actually mimics insect pheromones to attract predators. Essentially, it's calling in reinforcements to deal with those, insects munching on its leaves.
Wow, that's clever. It's like they're setting a trap for their enemies.
Exactly. And it really highlights just the incredible level of sophistication in their defenses, which is, essential since they can't just run away from danger.
They have to outsmart their enemies, not outrun them. Makes sense. But this brings up a pretty big question. What about the future of trees? With all the challenges they face, deforestation, climate change, invasive species, are they going to be okay?
Tudge doesn't sugarcoat the situation. He's clear that, the increasing threats to forests underscore the urgent need for conservation efforts. We can't just take their survival for granted.
Yeah, I agree. But he does offer some hope, right? There are things we can do to help.
Definitely. He highlights the importance of, sustainable forestry practices, planting mixed species forests, and even the potential of agroforestry, where trees are integrated into agricultural systems.
It does sound like, smart, holistic approaches. But I'm also curious about this idea that the future of trees is, intertwined with our own future. It seems like he's suggesting something deeper than just, the practical benefits.
You're right. Tudge argues that, understanding and appreciating the intricate world of trees is crucial for ensuring their survival and ultimately our own. He's calling for, a shift in perspective, a recognition of the interconnectedness of all life.
So it's not just about seeing trees as resources. It's about, recognizing their intrinsic value, their role in the web of life, and just the interconnectedness of our fates. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here, from, classifying trees to their evolution, distribution, and even their secret language. But there's still so much more to explore.
There is, and Tudge only scratches the surface in these excerpts. But he opens up, this whole new way of seeing these seemingly silent giants. It's about understanding their role in, the grand scheme of things, their incredible adaptations, and, just their delicate dance with the environment. And most importantly, it's about recognizing our responsibility to protect these ancient and vital ecosystems for generations to come.
You've given us a lot to think about already, but there's more to uncover. Why don't we take a break and then come back to delve deeper into the fascinating world of trees?
Welcome back to your deep dive into the secret life of trees.
We've already uncovered some amazing insights, from the evolution of wood to those intricate communication systems, how trees can warn each other about danger. But Tudge goes beyond just describing trees as, individual organisms. He suggests that they actually have social lives. Now, I don't picture them, gossiping over tea and crumpets or anything, but what does he mean by trees being social creatures?
Well, it's not exactly a cocktail party in the forest, but Tudge makes this compelling case that trees interact with each other in ways that are both competitive and cooperative, much like, any complex society.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me an example of this tree society in action.
Okay. So picture a dense forest canopy.
Right.
Trees are constantly vying for sunlight, growing taller, spreading their branches wider, all to capture, the most energy. And that's classic competition, survival of the fittest playing out right before your eyes.
Right. A leafy battle for resources.
Exactly. But Tudge also points out that trees can cooperate, sometimes even across species. He describes how they can, share resources through these interconnected root systems with the help of some fascinating underground allies. Fungi.
Fungi. Aren't those the things that, pop up on moldy bread? What do they have to do with this tree society?
They're much more than just, decomposers. Fungi form these vast networks in the soil called mycorrhiza, and they connect to tree roots. And it creates this sort of underground highway for sharing nutrients and water, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Trees get access to resources they might not otherwise be able to reach, and the fungi receive sugars from the trees.
So it's like this giant underground marketplace with trees and fungi trading essential goods and services. That's an amazing example of cooperation. But it also makes you wonder, are all trees connected through this fungal network?
Yeah.
Could a redwood in California be sharing resources with a maple in Vermont?
That's a fascinating question, and one that scientists are still exploring. While we know these mycorrhizal networks can be extensive, connecting trees within a forest, whether they span entire continents is still a mystery waiting to be unraveled.
Okay, we'll have to keep an eye on that research.
Yeah.
But let's move from the roots to the branches. We already touched on how flowering plants have these sophisticated reproductive mechanisms. But what are the specifics? How do trees actually do it, so to speak?
It varies quite a bit,
Go.
Depending on the species. Some trees are hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive parts on the same flower. Others are monoecious, with separate male and female flowers on the same tree. And still others are dioecious, meaning they have separate male and female trees entirely.
So there's a lot of variety in the tree bedroom, so to speak.
Yeah.
But regardless of their, setup, Tudge highlights that most trees go to great lengths to avoid self-fertilization. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, Tudge emphasizes that trees, like a lot of other organisms, they benefit from, mixing genes with other individuals. It increases genetic diversity, which makes the population, as a whole more resilient to diseases, pests, and those changing environmental conditions. Think of it like diversifying your investment portfolio, right? It spreads the risk and increases the chances of, long-term success.
Makes perfect sense. So how do trees achieve this genetic mixing? I'm guessing wind plays a role.
You're right. Wind pollination is a common strategy, especially for trees in temperate regions like oaks and birches. They release these massive amounts of pollen into the air, hoping that some of it will, land on the female flowers of other trees. It's a bit of a gamble, but it clearly works, on a large scale.
But in the tropics, where most tree species live, things get a bit more interesting, right? It's not just about letting the wind blow pollen around.
Exactly. In the tropics, animal pollination is much more common, and that leads to some really fascinating co-evolutionary relationships between trees and their pollinators.
Okay, now I'm picturing all sorts of intricate relationships with insects, birds, and bats.
You're on the right track. Tudge dives into some fascinating examples. He describes how some trees have, brightly colored flowers to attract pollinators, while others rely on enticing scents or even mimicry to lure them in.
Mimicry, like they're pretending to be something they're not to attract pollinators. Give me an example of that.
Some orchids, for instance, they've evolved to mimic the appearance and scent of female insects, and that attracts, males who inadvertently pick up pollen while attempting to mate with the fake female.
Oh, that's sneaky. It makes you wonder how those relationships evolved in the first place. But Tudge also mentions bats as pollinators, right? I'm guessing those flowers don't smell very sweet.
He does. Bats are especially important for pollinating trees in the tropics, particularly those that flower at night. Bat-pollinated flowers are often large and pale, making them easier to see in the dark. And they tend to have strong scents, often described as, fruity or musky.
Okay, I can see how that would appeal to a bat.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, these intricate relationships between trees and their pollinators highlight just how, interconnected life is in the forest.
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of trees standing around. It's this complex web of interactions.
Yeah.
With each species playing a vital role.
Exactly. And speaking of connections, let's move on to seed dispersal. After trees have successfully, reproduced, how do those seeds get dispersed and find new places to grow?
Okay, I can imagine wind and water being pretty effective. Dispersal methods, just let the elements do their thing.
Yeah.
But how do animals get involved?
Trees have evolved all sorts of ways to entice animals to carry their seeds, far and wide. Some produce fleshy fruits that animals eat, dispersing the seeds in their droppings. Others have seeds with hooks or barbs that attach to animal fur.
So it's like they're hitching a ride on unsuspecting furry passengers.
Precisely. And Tudge points out that this, reliance on animals for seed dispersal can lead to some remarkable co-evolutionary relationships where both the tree and the animal benefit.
Okay, give me an example of that. I'm always fascinated by how these, relationships develop over time.
Tudge describes the almendra tree in Panama. It produces large, nutritious seeds, and agoutis, a type of rodent, they love to eat them, and the agoutis bury the seeds, intending to come back and eat them later, but they often forget where they've hidden them.
So the agoutis are accidentally planting new trees.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. The agoutis get a nutritious meal, and the almendra tree gets its seeds dispersed and planted in, new locations, increasing its chances of survival.
It's a perfect example of how even, seemingly simple acts, like an animal burying a seed, can have these profound impacts on the forest ecosystem. And it really highlights that, interconnectedness of, everything in the forest, right? It's not just about individual trees. It's about this, complex web of relationships that sustains that entire ecosystem.
You're getting it. And Tudge takes this idea even further, exploring the cultural significance of trees. He delves into how, trees have been revered in different cultures throughout history, often seen as, symbols of strength, longevity, wisdom, and even divinity.
I can definitely see that. Trees have this, timeless quality about them. They've witnessed so much history, just standing as silent sentinels through the rise and fall of civilizations.
Exactly. And many cultures have specific trees that hold, particular significance. Tudge mentions the peepal tree, also known as the Bo tree, which is sacred in Buddhism. It's said that the Buddha attained enlightenment while meditating under a peepal tree.
That's a powerful story, illustrating how trees can hold this deep spiritual meaning for people, connecting us to something larger than ourselves. But trees have also played such a vital role in, human societies,
right?
Providing everything from food and shelter to, medicine and materials for tools and weapons. They're not just pretty to look at, they're essential for our survival.
Absolutely. And Tudge acknowledges, the practical benefits of trees, but he challenges us to move beyond just seeing them as resources to be exploited. He argues that we need to appreciate their intrinsic value and the vital role they play in, the web of life. It's a call for a more respectful and sustainable relationship with the natural world.
I'm hearing a consistent theme here.
Mm-hmm.
Trees are more than just commodities. They're living beings with complex lives and, interconnected relationships. And that brings us to a rather somber part of this conversation, the threats that trees face. Tudge doesn't shy away from these challenges, does he?
Not at all. He acknowledges the immense pressure that, human activities are putting on forests around the world. Yeah. And he outlines some of the biggest challenges from, deforestation to climate change and invasive species.
Let's start with deforestation. That's a pretty obvious one, right? Cutting down trees for timber, agriculture, and development, that's a major problem.
It is. And Tudge highlights how deforestation not only, destroys vital habitats, but also releases these vast amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which contributes to climate change. It's a double whammy for the planet.
And speaking of climate change, that's another huge threat, right? Shifting temperatures and rainfall patterns. That can stress trees, making them more vulnerable to, pests and diseases.
Exactly. And Tudge points out that climate change can also disrupt the, delicate timing of natural events, like flowering and seed dispersal, further disrupting that intricate balance of, forest ecosystems. It's like throwing a wrench into the clockwork of nature.
A very apt analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are invasive species, which we touched on earlier, these non-native plants and animals. They can outcompete native trees, disrupting ecological balances. And even, altering habitats in ways that make them less suitable for native species.
Yeah, they can have devastating impacts, driving some native species to extinction and just disrupting this delicate web of life that's evolved over millennia. It's a stark reminder of those, unintended consequences of human actions.
So we've got this trifecta of threats: deforestation, climate change, and invasive species. It's a pretty bleak picture, but I'm hoping Tudge doesn't leave us, completely in despair. There must be some glimmers of hope, some things we can do to help protect these vital ecosystems.
Absolutely. He emphasizes the importance of, conservation efforts, sustainable forestry practices, and even the potential for restoring degraded forests. It's not about giving up. It's about recognizing the urgency of the situation and taking action.
Okay, let's dig into that. What are some specific things we can do to, help protect and restore forests? I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get involved.
Well, Tudge highlights several key strategies. Protecting existing forests from further deforestation through, legislation, responsible land management, and creating those protected areas. Promoting sustainable forestry practices, harvesting timber in ways that minimize damage to ecosystems and ensure regeneration. Restoring degraded forests by planting native trees, controlling invasive species, and promoting, natural regeneration processes. Educating people about the importance of forests and the threats they face, fostering a sense of, stewardship and responsibility, and supporting research to better understand forest ecosystems and develop more effective conservation strategies, ensuring that our actions are guided by science and a deep understanding of these complex systems.
That's a comprehensive list, and it shows that there are things we can do at, all levels, from individual actions to global policies. It's not about feeling helpless. It's about empowering ourselves to, make a difference. But it sounds like it's going to take a lot of effort and collaboration to turn things around.
It will. But Tudge's book reminds us that it's worth the effort. Forests are essential for the health of our planet and for our own well-being. They provide countless benefits, from clean air and water to regulating the climate and providing habitat for countless species. Protecting forests is about, protecting ourselves and ensuring a healthy future for generations to come.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. We need to channel our inner Lorax and speak for the trees. But let's go back to the secret life of trees for a moment. We touched on their communication systems earlier. But Tudge dives even deeper into that world, doesn't he?
Right.
What more does he reveal about the ways they communicate and interact?
He takes us into this fascinating world of, chemical signaling, explaining how trees use these volatile organic compounds to share information about threats like pests and herbivores. It's like a silent alarm system spreading the word through the air. But much more nuanced than we might imagine.
So it's not just a general, danger signal. They can actually communicate specific information about, the type of threat.
Exactly. Tudge points out that trees can, distinguish between different types of threats, and they can tailor their responses accordingly. For example, a tree attacked by a particular type of insect might release a specific blend of chemicals that attracts the predators of that insect, effectively calling in reinforcements to deal with the threat. It's a level of sophistication that might, surprise you.
That's mind-blowing. It's like they have this intricate language we're only beginning to understand.
Yeah.
But their communication isn't limited to, the air, is it? Tudge also mentions communication through the roots, right?
You're right. He talks about how trees can communicate through their roots, often with the help of those, amazing fungal networks we talked about earlier, the mycorrhiza. These underground connections, allow trees to share resources. But research suggests that they might also be sending messages through these networks, warning each other about danger, or even sharing information about the availability of nutrients.
Wow, it's like this whole hidden world of communication going on beneath our feet. It makes you wonder what other secrets are waiting to be discovered.
It does, and Tudge suggests that this interconnectivity, may play a crucial role in the resilience of forests. By sharing resources and information, trees can better cope with stress and even help each other survive, disturbances, making the forest as a whole stronger and more adaptable.
Okay, that's a heartening thought. It's like they're looking out for each other, forming this community of support. And it highlights the importance of, preserving the integrity of forest ecosystems, right? If we disrupt these networks of communication and cooperation, we may be making trees more vulnerable to those threats that they face.
Exactly. It's not just about protecting individual trees. It's about protecting that entire, forest community, that intricate web of relationships that sustains the ecosystem.
Well said. Okay, I'm sensing a shift in the conversation. We've gone from those dire threats facing trees to the fascinating ways they adapt, communicate, and, support each other. It's a reminder that even in the face of challenges, there's hope, resilience, and a lot we can learn from the natural world.
Tudge does a masterful job of balancing those, perspectives. He doesn't shy away from the challenges, but he also highlights the incredible, resilience and ingenuity of trees, giving us reason to be both concerned and hopeful.
And I think that's a powerful message for us as, listeners. We need to be aware of the threats, but we also need to be inspired by the potential for positive change. There's a lot we can do to, make a difference. But let's not forget that Tudge's book is ultimately about, the secret life of trees. And we've only scratched the surface of that, fascinating world. Let's take another break here and come back to delve deeper into those secrets. Welcome back to your deep dive into the secret life of trees. We've been talking about communication, cooperation, even, competition among trees. But Tudge takes it a step further. He kind of delves into the very composition of trees. And you might be surprised to learn how profound that topic can be.
It is easy to overlook that, seemingly simple stuff, the stuff that makes up a tree. But Tudge uses this clever framework to highlight just how interconnected trees are with their environment. He uses those 4 classical elements, earth, water, air, and fire, to illustrate this point.
Okay. I have to admit, when I think of classical elements, I think of, ancient philosophers, not cutting-edge botany. How does that framework apply to trees?
Yeah, it might seem outdated, but it's a surprisingly effective way to, understand this complex relationship between trees and their surroundings. Take Earth, for instance. Trees draw minerals and nutrients from the soil, literally embodying the essence of the earth. And then there's water. And we've talked about how trees act as these, giant pumps, moving incredible amounts of water from the ground to their leaves, playing a vital role in that whole water cycle.
Right. They're essential for, regulating water on a local and even global scale. And then there's air.
Yeah.
We all know that trees absorb carbon dioxide from the air, through photosynthesis and release oxygen. But it's easy to forget how profound that process is. They're literally breathing the air, shaping the very atmosphere we depend on.
It's easy to, take those processes for granted, but they're fundamental to life as we know it. And then there's fire, which, might seem like a destructive force when it comes to trees. But Tudge points out that fire can also be a natural and even, beneficial part of forest ecosystems.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How can fire possibly be, good for trees?
Some trees, like jack pines, have evolved to actually depend on fire for their reproduction. Their cones are sealed with resin, and that resin only melts at high temperatures. So fire triggers the release of their seeds. It's this remarkable adaptation that ensures their survival in, fire-prone ecosystems.
So even fire, a seemingly destructive force, can play this, creative role in the life of a forest. It's a powerful reminder that nature often works in ways that, we might not expect.
Exactly. And Tudge's point is that trees embody all four of these elements: earth, water, air, and fire. They're not just, isolated organisms. They're inextricably linked to the world around them.
Okay. I'm starting to appreciate the elegance of that, classical element framework. But I'm also curious about something else Tudge mentions. This idea that trees can grow on what seems like nothing at all. How is that even possible? They need more than just, sunshine and air, right?
It's a question that's puzzled scientists for centuries, but we're starting to, unravel the secrets. Tudge explains that trees are incredibly efficient at absorbing nutrients and water from the soil, even in, nutrient-poor environments. But you're right. They do need more than just water and minerals to grow.
That's where photosynthesis comes in, right? Capturing energy from sunlight and converting it into those sugars to fuel their growth.
Exactly. Photosynthesis is the engine that drives the growth of all plants, but trees have really taken it to another level. But Tudge also points out that trees often get, a helping hand from some microscopic partners, bacteria and fungi.
Yes. We talked about mycorrhiza earlier, those incredible fungal networks that connect to tree roots and, enhance their ability to absorb water and nutrients. It's like this, underground support system, helping trees access resources they wouldn't be able to reach on their own.
And it's not just, fungi. Tudge also discusses how some trees, particularly legumes like acacias, have symbiotic relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in their roots. These bacteria perform an amazing feat. They convert atmospheric nitrogen into a form that plants can use. It's a vital process because nitrogen is essential for growth, but most plants can't access the, abundant nitrogen in the air directly.
So these nitrogen-fixing bacteria are like tiny fertilizer factories.
Yeah.
Providing trees with those nutrients they need to thrive. It's another reminder that, trees don't exist in isolation. They rely on this whole community of organisms to support their growth and survival.
It's a beautiful example of the, interdependence of life, how different organisms have evolved to work together for mutual benefit. And it highlights just the, complexity of forest ecosystems, where even the smallest organisms play a crucial role.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the classical elements to photosynthesis to the role of bacteria and fungi. We've delved into the evolution of trees, their distribution across the globe, their complex social interactions, the remarkable adaptations for survival. But I have one final question before we wrap things up. Why should we care about all this? Why should we even, bother to understand the secret life of trees?
That's the most important question of all, isn't it? And I think Tudge offers several compelling answers.
I'm all ears. What are his most convincing arguments?
Well, first, he reminds us that, understanding trees is essential for our own survival. Trees provide us with countless benefits, from the air we breathe to the materials we use to build our homes. If we want to continue to, enjoy these gifts, we need to understand how trees work and how to protect them.
That's the practical argument, and it's a powerful one. But I have a feeling Tudge goes beyond, just the practical benefits. He seems to be suggesting a deeper connection between humans and trees.
You're right. He argues that understanding trees can, enrich our lives in countless ways. It can inspire us with awe and wonder, teach us about the interconnectedness of life, and even, deepen our spiritual connection to the natural world.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. There's something about being in a forest surrounded by these, ancient and majestic beings.
Yeah.
It's just deeply calming and inspiring. It's like a reset button for the soul.
I agree. And Tudge suggests that this connection to nature, to trees, is something that we've, lost touch with in our modern technology-driven world. And rediscovering that connection, he argues, is crucial, not just for our own well-being, but also for the future of trees. If we don't value and appreciate them, we're less likely to, protect them.
So it's about cultivating a sense of wonder.
Of respect.
Of recognizing that, we're part of nature, not separate from it. It's about understanding that our fate is, intertwined with the fate of the forests.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the idea of the secret life of trees, right? It's not just about, the scientific marvels of how they communicate and interact. It's about recognizing the mystery, the beauty, the interconnectedness of life in the forest. It's about opening ourselves up to, the wisdom that trees have to offer if we only take the time to listen.
That's a beautiful sentiment. And I think it's the perfect note to end on. Listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of trees, inspired by the insights of Colin Tudge. And remember, the next time you encounter a tree, take a moment to appreciate its secret life, the intricate processes, the hidden connections, the silent wisdom that make it such a remarkable being. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of trees.
Did you get any of that?